Hey, it's Chandler from KnifeCenter, and we're here with Matt, here to talk about Microtech Knives. I know we're going to be talking a little bit about Microtech, and I was wondering what you could tell me about Microtech as a company.
Microtech's company's been around for over 25 years, family owned and operated. They probably have 20 employees, but Tony's the designer. His wife handles the business side. His son also grinds knives and works in the production part of the company. They put out great product, multiple Blade Show Quality of the Year knives, Knife of the Year a few times, and a great company.
Absolutely. One thing that we were talking a little bit about that I actually didn't know was that Marfione and Microtech are involved. So kind of tell me how that came about, if you know anything about that.
What Tony does on the Marfione custom side is, what he does, he comes up with the prototype. He'll hand grind the blades, come up with the design, and then what he usually does, he'll do a few runs of Damascus blades, high polished blades, different inlays, and he'll run the course with that and see how the knife does. Once it takes off, he'll then move it over to the Microtech production side, where Microtech will do a basic version of the knife, same quality, but not as many whistles and bells on the knife.
So one of the things is the SOCOM. You talked about that being one of the most common and favored and loved Microtech knives, and I completely agree. I think they're great. And then you have the Marfione SOCOM. So what's kind of the difference between the two knives?
Okay. The one here, this is an auto from 2001. The older version had the rubber insert.
Right.
And a higher pocket clip.
Okay.
Now the newer version, they're using the skid tape. They redefined the pocket clip.
Right.
On the manual, they changed the liner lock over some.
Nice.
It's put a glass break on there, streamlined the handle a little bit.
So it seems like a lot of the changes are just a very small differences that you won't really notice unless you know what you're looking for, which is one of the things that I'm learning. So just kind of overall fit and finish of the knife is a little bit better?
Well, the fit and finish is the same, still the high quality, but it rides a little bit better in your pocket. The thumb studs are a little bit bigger for easier opening. The grip tape's a little bit grippier than the rubber insert. The rubber insert used to wear down a little bit, but the grip tape works well.
Definitely. I love it. I've just been picking up these knives and using them a little bit today, and they feel amazing. Really solid in your hand, very good ergonomics on the SOCOMs. It just feels like a sturdy knife. I've never actually owned a Microtech myself, but you let me take this Ultratech out yesterday, and I used it. Oh my gosh, I just love it. It feels so much better in your pocket. For me, I'm used to carrying larger knives.
Yeah.
Usually I'll carry a Benchmade Adamas or a Spyderco Manix, or I'll carry something a little bit larger, a little bit more girth, maybe even a Strider SMG. And having this kind of just low profile knife has been really great. I think it's a lot more comfortable to carry, and from what I've experienced, and it's just fun to play with.
Yeah. This knife here is one of my personal knives. It's from 2001, and I carried it for years and never had a problem with it. Nowadays with the new model, they changed the pocket clip around, so you got a little bit more stability on your pocket. They put a glass breaker on it, a lanyard loop, contoured the handle some, which I find to be very nice. Okay. And
one thing I noticed was that the newer Ultratechs have a different type of button.
Yeah, they textured the button a little bit better.
I know. I think that was a nice little I guess thing to do, because I've noticed that when you first break open a Microtech, they've definitely, you can feel that the spring has got a lot of tension on it, which is good. It's a solid knife. A
lot of people think that they'll go off in your pocket, but they have a design in it. It's like pulling the trigger on a gun. There's a little creep in it, then once you hit that spot, it fires off. Okay. And inside the handle, there's a cam up top and a cam in the bottom that will lock the blade in place. So the spring always has tension in it for retraction and deployment. Okay.
Now, my only experience with OTF knives outside of Microtech has been literally a no-name OTF that I picked up. It was just a piece of junk from China that I wanted it because I wanted an OTF knife. And that's kind of my understanding of OTFs until I started really using Microtechs. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed to be able to see that Microtech can make such a good knife because, I mean, as you said, their quality and their fit and their finish is impeccable, but all the other knives, it just kind of felt like janky and like loose and things like that, but I don't get that with this at all.
Microtech's one of the most knocked off companies in the country, in the knife industry. The China knocks off have been coming in for years, and you do get a bunch of wobble, but with the Microtech knife, Tony actually did a video of this, hammering this through a 55-gallon drum. So the locking mechanism on this is unbelievable. You know, they use premium steel, but people do buy the Chinese knockoffs, and they determined later on that it was a bad value.
Absolutely, because just my opinion from all that OTF knife that I had in the past versus this one is completely night and day. The other one was something I couldn't even use. It was just a toy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what it was. It was a toy to have with me, but this is an actual knife. This is something that is nice, and I don't know about this Ultratech, but I know that I was looking at this one earlier, and it comes in M390 steel blade.
Yes.
Which is a very good blade, one that I've used quite a lot, and it's a super steel, and it's an amazing edge retention and good durability.
Well, Tony, they always try to stay on the forefront of technology, so they always use premium steel. Sometimes the steel does switch back and forth, but it's always a top grade steel. Any material that Microtech uses in their product is going to be a premium steel.
Absolutely.
And that's, you know, some people don't want to pay the price, but the story's always told, you get what you pay for. Mm-hmm. And to try to get a cheaper route out, you won't get the performance out of the product.
Absolutely. I mean, I think in knives, more than anything else on earth, you can kind of see the quality. You get what you pay for.
Yep.
If you buy something that's not going to hold up, it's not going to hold up. If you buy something that's going to have good quality, good steel, good materials, and then you take care of it and you use it properly, it'll last you a lifetime. It'll be something you can hang down. Because, I mean, you were telling me that this is something you bought in 2001. That's 17 years old. And I think it's impressive because it feels like it's out of the box when it comes to what it does.
Yeah, the one thing you don't want wobble in your blade, because when you're doing actual work with the knife, the one thing you can't have is the knife close on you.
Yeah.
That's the most terrifying thing about using a knife, is having your own knife cut yourself with. And but Microtech, you can bang on it, you can beat it, you don't have to worry about it collapsing on you. If it doesn't fire all the way, you just reset it with your hand. Mm-hmm. Some people have the notion that the knife can go through a phone book or something like that. That's untrue. Mm-hmm. It deploys under spring tension, and that's about it. It won't go through much.
It has a derailleur in it, right? That when it hits something, it'll
the spring just stops there.
Okay.
And then you manually reset it.
One of the things that I was under the impression of, and something I've seen kind of thrown around blade forums and different things I've experienced in conversations I've had, is people don't really believe that OTF knives make good work knives or good EDC knives because they're more of a showpiece. Like, what's kind of your standpoint on that?
That's people that haven't really used them and they feel that they won't deploy properly. As long as your Microtech isn't nothing's in front of the blade, it will deploy.
Okay.
From time to time, if you get too much pocket lint in there, it is best to blow it out with some compressed air. But I've never had a non-deploy situation happen to me. You can do whatever you do with a regular knife, that knife will handle. Absolutely.
I completely agree from what I've experienced with the Ultratech that you let me borrow. I ran it through a couple cut tests, cut things with it, open boxes, cut paper, the general use stuff that would dull a knife, and I felt perfectly comfortable doing that. Cutting open packages, no problem. And I'm excited, and I would look forward to being able to do more with it. Yeah. But I'm thinking you're going to have to make me return it, so I'm not super happy about that.
In Microtech, in the knife industry, there's a lot of different things going on, but Microtech wasn't the first person to do it, but they work with other makers to come up with designs. He worked with Greg Lightfoot. He worked with Walter Bren back in the day, coming up with different blade finishes. About 22 years ago, I went down to Vero Beach and was hanging out in the shop. It turned out that Walter Bren was there and Tony. They were grinding. Looking back on that now, it's something that was very special, and just working with different makers to come up with the best product.
One thing that I've noticed from Microtech is that they're really trying to innovate and stay relevant. I was looking, and I'm personally a butterfly knife guy, a balisong guy,
Yeah.
And I saw that they have a couple of butterfly knives, balisongs, which are the same thing. And just the fact that they would take the time to go and branch out into different areas like that, I think is kind of impressive.
Oh yeah, they've done the tachyon. They put it out probably 15 years ago, and then they retired it for a little bit. They brought it back. They do a bunch of color configurations on it.
Yeah.
It's a great knife that a lot of the flippers seem to enjoy.
Oh, absolutely. Now, okay, so like this is my big question. I know you personally, and I know that you have an ammo can full of custom knives on your desk.
Yes.
And for everyone, he has an ammo can just full of custom knives. And it seems like all the custom knives you have, out of all the different things, I always see you carrying a Microtech.
The SOCOM is truly my favorite knife. It will do whatever you need it. It's not overpriced. The fit, finish, the performance. I've had them for years. They work well, and I enjoy them.
There you go. So what's a little bit more about the fit and finish? Like what stands out to you about not Marfione? What stands out to you about?
And that's what you can call it Marfione, because it's the same. I still consider them the same company.
Okay.
For years, Microtech, when they first started, they had put out limited runs of Damascus blades, high polished blades, and they're just called a limited run. And then at some point, Tony broke off and opened up Marfione Custom Knives. But I still consider them Microtech. So a Marfione to me, a customer will call about a Marfione, and I go, oh, it's a Microtech, because I consider them one and the same.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this video, you can like and subscribe. As well, we've got in the description box below a link to all the knives used in the video, as well as more of Microtech's products. Please check out KnifeCenter.com, the original and largest catalog of cutlery.
Keep it sharp.